Hi everyone, today we'll be taking a look at Lewis and Clark, my own all-time favorite when it comes to Tommy Emmanuel songs. I can vividly remember hearing this song for the very first time, and it was on a live video made by a fan on one of his live concerts. I was immediately struck by the beautiful melody and the subtlety with which most parts were performed. This song is played with a very soft touch, and this will also reappear as a point of caution throughout this whole tutorial. Let's jump right in. You need a capo on the 2nd fret, and that is all you need to play this song. So there's no thumb pick, there's no flat pick, there's no alternate tuning. We're basically in standard tuning, nothing else, and we're good to go. There's only 3 sections, so you have the intro, which is the most difficult part because there's a lot of fast-paced fills to play in there. Then you head over to the verse, and then there is a chorus, and that's everything there is to know, but there's still quite a lot to get your teeth in. So let's head out, let's play the chorus, let's play the intro. Let's start with that one time, and then I'm going to explain it how you can tackle this part. So there you go, that's the intro. Now let's pick that one apart, because there are a few things I changed when learning the song, and there's a few things I think I can change as well to show you an easier way to play it. So the very first part, if you watch Tommy Emmanuel play it, he will slide up from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret while playing an open E string. So he will play ring finger on the 3rd fret, sliding up to the 5th finger while playing an open string. 3rd fret on the high E string with the index finger, then moving to the pinky on the 5th fret. When he plays the high note on the pinky, that is when you play the low E note as a bass note. And then what happens is a very typical Tommy Emmanuel technique. He will slide up and down with the pinky while keeping down the rest of the fingering. Now, when I learned how to play this song, I wasn't that accomplished in this style, so I learned it another way. I actually slide up with the middle finger, going to the index finger on the 3rd fret, ring finger on the 5th fret, and then hammering on and pulling off with the pinky. This, to this day, still feels a lot more comfortable to me, but I do realize that Tommy Emmanuel plays it in a different fashion. So the technique with the pinky sliding up and down, or the technique with all hammer-ons and pull-offs. So you can decide on what works best for you, but these are 2 viable options. Either sliding up and down with the pinky, up, down, and pulling off to the index finger, or when you work with the other fingering, hammering on, pulling off, pulling off. Or, so those are the 2 options you can take. So feel free, try it out, see what works best for you, and get that version into your fingers. Then the next chord is immediately going to cause problems for people with a bit smaller hands. So Tommy has very large hands and can get his fingers around really big chords without too much difficulty. But this chord, that will probably work for most people. So the same move, 3rd fret to the 5th fret while playing the open string, to the 3rd fret with the index finger on the A string, and then pulling off to the 3rd fret on the high E string with the middle finger. Now this is not an easy chord to get your fingers around. 3rd fret on the A string, 5th fret on the B string, 5th fret with the pinky on the high E string, while keeping down the middle finger on the 3rd fret as well. You can make this easier, so there is another way. The finger that is causing most trouble is this one. So if you want to keep this finger down, a lot of stuff is going to be harder to play. So if you remove that finger and play that note with the pinky, it gets a lot easier for this hand. Again, as in the other video tutorials about Tommy Emmanuel songs, you do lose some of the charm of the original, but if this is what it takes to enable you to play this song, then go for it. It's a beautiful piece and it shouldn't be lost on 1 or 2 really difficult fingerings. So either way you do this, which is a really large chord, or you do this, which should be a lot easier to play. Sliding up, hammering on with the pinky, index finger for the bass note, exactly the same, but you leave out that ring finger, pulling off to the 3rd fret, pulling off to the open string, and then adding in the 5th fret with the pinky again. You miss out on that E note on the 5th fret that keeps ringing out, but again, if this is what it takes to play the song, go ahead. Maybe you can add in that difficult fingering later on. So open string, 5th fret, and then a really quick flurry, middle finger on the 2nd fret, hammering on to the 3rd fret, pulling off to the 2nd fret, pulling off to the open string, and hammering back onto the 2nd fret. And you leave that first note just a little, ringing out a little bit longer, and then the flurry of all those hammer-ons and pull-offs is really quite fast. Adding in a D chord. Basically the same fill, but adding in the pinky, because the ring finger is now busy playing the D chord shape. Again, the same fill. And then to A note, 2nd fret on the G string, pinky 5th fret on the B string, and an open E string. The picking pattern of that faster part is always the same: thumb, middle finger, index finger. Thumb, middle finger, index finger. In the tablature down below you will see a number of times in which this fill is notated. Don't count it, just play it as it feels good. If you play it 5 times, if you play it 7 times, it doesn't really matter. It's all for dramatic effect, so there's no need in counting how many times you should play this fingering. As soon as it feels good, and you play the rest of the piece. So no need to count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I have to do this 7 or 8 times. No need, just play it as it feels right for you, and then continue with the rest of the melody. So by now we actually have most of the intro under our belt or into our fingers already, because the second part of the intro is mostly repetition, is mostly the repeat of the first time. So I'm going to play the first time through one more time, repeat the second time, and I will stop as soon as there is extra explanation needed. Here we go. part of the intro. So this was a full repeat, no difference. Now we're adding the last part. So open B string, 5th fret. So you're basically playing the same fill you did before. Now you're playing the same fill on the B string. Ending up with a slide from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret and an open B string. E minor arpeggio. And a little harp chord with a few harmonics thrown in. So what you're doing is you're playing an E minor shape, open string, 2nd fret, 2nd fret, open string, and as soon as you play that open B string, you move over to the 12th fret. B string, harmonic on the D string, 12th fret, then on the 9th fret, a regular fretted note, 12th fret on the B string, 12th fret on the high E string. And that's the end of the intro. So if you take it from that last part. As soon as you have played that, Tommy usually plays this flourish down, so he sanded down his guitar here to get a bit of a rough edge, and that's when he strokes the bare wood to get this shuffling sound over the guitar. My guitar is still intact, so I'm not gonna sand it down, but if you have a rougher area or your guitar is a satin finish, that might actually work, but this would only sound squeaky if I try it. Then we're heading over into basically the second part of the intro, which is establishing the mood for the verse as well. This is a part that is played very subtly with the thumb. The thumb is actually doing 90% of the work. Let me play the intro or the different chords one time and you will see immediately what I mean. So this is the chord part, E minor and G. In a lot of Tommy Emmanuel songs, his thumb is the driving part behind the rhythm. It's the same thing with this song, but it is a lot less driving in force than with most of his other songs. So the thumb is actually striking the strings rather softly, and you're also using the thumb for a lot of upstrokes. So you're going to play gently brushed upstrokes each time when changing the chord. So I'm going to do this really slowly. So this is the bass line of the E minor chord, and if you move over to the G chord, there's one little technique hidden in there. If you switch to the E minor chord, Tommy will play all open strings and hammer on the E chord together with the low E bass note. So that's what happens every time when he changes from the G to the E minor chord. if you hear me playing this pattern, this is actually all thumb work. So there's no index finger, there's no middle finger joining in yet. So if I play the rhythm part using only the thumb, you already get almost a complete picture. There's only one note, depending on what version you view by Tommy Emmanuel, one note that's being played by the index finger while playing or establishing this rhythm part. So this is all thumb. There's no, let me try and make it clear. Curling up my index finger and middle finger to show you that I'm not actually using them. So this is all thumb. So by putting down my fingers down below here, you could clearly see that the index finger and middle finger isn't actually doing anything. The whole rhythm part is nothing but the thumb playing the bass notes and doing the occasional very, very soft upstroke. So no need to get your fingernail in, it's just really gently brushing the side with the side of the thumb along the strings. If you want to add in anything, then it's only the index finger that will join in the dance. So the index finger is always playing this open G string, and that's all that happens really, really slowly now. So I'm really putting an emphasis on that open G string now, but you don't need to do that when you're playing. I'm just doing this now to show you that the note is there and it's being played by the index finger. But if you want to keep this rhythm part as subtle as it has to sound, then everything has to be nice and even. So let's add everything in together. So this establishes the mood of the song and mostly the rhythm part for most of the verse. Then we're going to start to add in some fills, and this is where it gets a bit more complicated. You will have to use a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs throughout this song, and most of them float across the bass line. So that means you will be playing a certain bass pattern, you will be initiating some hammer-ons and pull-offs, and most of the time the hammer-on and pull-off line will continue over several other bass notes. So what you need to do is to get these pull-off patterns really equal and really nicely timed out so you can fit them easily on top of the chords. Let's take a look at some of the first fills that are being played. And right away, that's one of them. So what's happening? So you're playing bass note with the thumb. The middle finger has to sound out at the same time while you're playing this low bass note. And then the A note here is together with the B string. The second fill is actually the same pull-off pattern but with a different ending note in the melody. Instead of ending up on the just the B string, you will also add in a high E. So first fill, only the B string to end up, second fill, with a high E string, first fill again, and second fill, so get that into your fingers, really, really good, because you will need this technique as well when playing the verse. Talking about the verse, let's head over to that one. So once you're done playing the intro, there is one melody line that will head you straight over into the verse and set you up for the next part. So you're playing the intro, same fill, second fill, first fill again, and then to the verse. So you're ending up on a G chord, D note with the pinky, third fret on the B string, sorry, heading over to an open E string. That's the verse. Every time I play it, it's such a beautiful melody. It really is a joy to play. So get your teeth into this. It's a lovely tune to crank out during a campfire night or just at home with friends. So it always makes jaws drop. So you end up with the G chord to a very, very basic D chord. And yet again, here we are playing those hammer-on and pull-off licks while the bass line has to continue. This one is the trickiest one, but it's also the one that reoccurs the most. You have to play this several times throughout the song, even throughout the first verse. So let's take a really good look at this one. You're hammering on to the second fret, so you're playing a D chord, hammering on to the second fret, and then playing the pinky on the third fret, pulling off to the second fret, pulling off to an open string. And what has to happen is when you end up on that open string, you have to sound out that open string at the same time as you're playing the D bass note again. Get that timing right exactly. One thing to focus on is make sure that you complete every pull-off in succession before initiating the next. Something I see happen a lot with my students is they are already starting the pull-off on the middle finger to the open string while they haven't really completely finished the pull-off on the pinky yet. So really get these right in succession. So that's the melody line without the chord, without the bass line. And try to get this exercise going first. Bass line, just continuously playing through it. That going before attempting the rest of the verse. So you're ending with a D note, third fret on the B string as a melody note, and heading over to an A chord. Now, the fingering of this A chord might seem a bit weird because most people will play the A chord like this. I have seen people playing it like this as well. But this is actually a more logical fingering, seeing what comes right after this, because after this A chord we're moving to a E chord, which is a lot easier to transfer to. If you play it like this, you will leave out the ring finger and move down the first fret, and you can play the E chord as well. So let's take a look at the melody on the A chord. If you completed the hammer-on and pull-off challenge on the D chord, then this should be a walk in the park. So, pulling off, heading over to the E chord. The E chord bit is actually quite easy, just playing the bass notes. Heading over to a G chord, but you're not actually playing a full D chord, a full G chord, sorry. You're only playing the bass note, and you will add in the third fret right away. So maybe add in one of those thumb up strokes again, always sounds nice. And that little part, those 2 bars, are most of the verse. So right after this you are going to repeat this, and only the melody on the A chord is going to be different. So the first time sounds like this. Second time. So the only thing that's different is on the A chord, which will, for most people, actually be easier to play than the first part. The only thing to watch out for is to really clip that second A chord, really make it short, and then sound out the E chord. That's something that we didn't have to do in the first part as well. And the third time around we're staying on the E chord, so we're not moving over to the G chord. So we're playing a fill, 2nd fret on the D string, sliding up to the 4th fret. I've also seen Tommy play this with a hammer-on. That doesn't really make that much difference. To a C chord, to D over F sharp. You can play this with the index finger, to an E minor chord. Tommy also plays this with the thumb over the side of the neck. We looked at this in other tutorials as well. If your hands aren't large enough, use the index finger. If you can manage with the thumb, just put your thumb over the side of the neck. And we're back into the intro. And that part is the whole verse. Every time the verse is played, it is repeated exactly the same as this first one. So I'm going to play it one more time for you, really slowly. Then on the repeat, I'm going to pick up the pace just a little bit to give you an impression of what it sounds like if you play it a little bit faster, but not fully up to Tommy Emmanuel speed. So one more time, a bit slower. Pick up the pace just slightly for the second verse, which is exactly the same. the same fill yet again to the C chord, same fill D over F sharp, to an A sus4 chord. So that's how the second verse ends, and that's how we transfer to the chorus. So let me play the end part of the second verse once more. To the E minor chord. To an A sus4 chord. We are ready now to transfer into the chorus. Now the chorus will feature the hardest chords to get your fingers around, but no worries, there are some alternatives yet again to skip or adjust some of those difficult big chords to make it a bit more playable. Let me play the chorus for you one time so you can hear what it's going to sound like once you're finished, and then we'll come back and give you the explanation. Straight back into the intro and ready to play the next verse. Now you probably noticed some big chords in this section. So we're heading up. What you're playing is open string, 2nd fret on the A string, 4th fret on the D string, open G string, 3rd fret on the B string, and 5th fret on the high E string. Now when you start playing the chorus, Tommy doesn't actually play the full chord, he only plays it the second time. So he will start out, so what happens is you're playing the melody on the top 2 strings, little technique on top is probably going to cause some problems for some people. Now this has nothing to do with your level of guitar playing. I actually have a teacher myself in the conservatory where I work, a brilliant classical player who can play the most complicated classical stuff, but who is not able to rock that part of his finger back and forth. So he has to use 2 fingers when playing this part. Tommy Emmanuel always puts down the middle finger and then lifts it up to create that open E string. So now the E string is open and now it's back to the 3rd fret. You can again make this a little bit easier by using the ring finger. In this part you're not actually sounding it out yet. So if you play that part, the ring finger hasn't actually done anything yet. So you can move that one over and play it like this. So that's a possibility as well. So this is the Tommy Emmanuel version. This is the adjusted version. Now, a very good question is mostly asked now is why keep that finger down here? I'm guessing Tommy used to play this section of the song using very wide chords, switching to the approach you see now over time. So he changed the way he starts out the chorus. Instead of playing one big chord, starting with the syncopated bass notes, but he probably just left in the chord as it was, as he was used to it at that time. We will be playing this big chord right away the second time around. The second part, so same problem, you can fix this again by leaving out the ring finger. that's the same solution, just leave out the ring finger. So once again, the Tommy Emmanuel version. So always rocking back and forth with the middle finger or adjusting the fingering. And using the ring finger to play that part. So let me play both sections back to back. So then we're ending up on a D chord. And what you're doing is you're alternating with the thumb to the D and the A string. And you're strumming up and down with the fingers, but very, very lightly. So what you're doing is you're playing with the thumb up and down, alternating the bass strings. That's the basic movement, but very, very lightly strumming. I use the back of the fingernail of the middle finger. To get this strumming effect going while the bass line as well keeps continuing. Then, same pull-off lick we already used. And then onto the next section. So pinky, middle finger, open string, 3rd fret on the B string, to an open E string, and then we're heading over to the Aces-4 chord. So the part on the Aces-4 chord is very much different each time Tommy plays it. You can do a cross-section between the same strumming pattern or playing an arpeggio. What I'm doing is usually something in between. So what I'm doing is bass note, strumming, arpeggio, and one final chord before heading over to the repeat of the chorus. So second time around, chorus is exactly the same with one exception. Before that, we would start out the B minor chord with only the bass line. The second time around, Tommy always does play that large, full sounding chord on the first beat, but no worries, right after you have played that chord, you can, if you used it the first time, use the ring finger again to play the melody on the high E string. So. So what happens the second time is you stay a lot longer on that D chord, but you end up with the same fill. So you use that strumming trick a bit longer. Instead of 2 counts, you use 1.5 bars, so 6 counts in total on the D chord. So then the same trick on the Aces-4 chord. I always use the combination of strumming and the arpeggio. Open A bass note and then playing the transition fill back into the intro. So almost everything is hammer-ons and pull-offs. Open B string, 3rd fret, pull off to the 2nd fret, to the open string, 2nd fret on the G string, and to an open B string. And back into the intro. Congratulations, this was the whole of Lewis and Clark, so everything that comes after this is repetition. So we have now played the Indian style, intro, the second part of the intro, setting the mood and setting the rhythm part. We have played the first verse, the first chorus. Now we're heading into the second verse, which is exactly the same as the first one. Only the first one was repeated 2 times, second one will only be played 1 time. Here we go. Exactly the same, we're only adding just a small bit right at the end of it. Let's have a listen. So what happens that very last time, you repeat the chorus again, one more time, the same melody, without using the alternating thumb bass line all the way through. So you're playing the last time. So the same melody, the same chord, only the bass note is not alternating all the way underneath the melody. So normally you get this, and now you get this. So the ending of the chorus is exactly the same as the previous times. Now we are repeating the intro once more with the same fills. And the last time we will be ending on the same harmonic little trick we used in the intro. So we're playing the very last time. Same fill. Playing the open E string and the open B string at the same time. And playing the same harmonic fill we used in the intro. So there you go, that's the whole of Lewis and Clark. I hope you take a swing at this song. It's one of the most beautiful songs that's ever been written on the acoustic guitar. I love it to this day. I've been playing it for years. I still love it every time I hear it, every time I get to play it myself, which is actually quite rare. As a guitar player, you're usually very critical when you're playing someone, but this just, even on a bad day, this sounds so amazing. I really encourage you to give it a try. If the chords are too big, if the hammer-ons and pull-offs pose problems, that takes practice. Those big chords and a few of those fingerings, they are hopefully solved after watching this video. So have a go at it, grab your guitar, get to work, and I'll see you soon.